Hello everyone, it's Doc Liberty 32, posting my first video to YouTube. Before I get started, I just want to say a couple things. One as to why I'm doing this, and then a couple things about my own point of view. The reason I'm posting this video is because I personally can tell that something is wrong with America. The decisions our government is making, to me, make no real sense unless they know something we do not. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because I assume if you're watching this video, you have your own questions as to what is really going on with our government. A couple things I want to say before we get started. One, I have no political affiliation. I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm not even independent. The only thing I am is an independent thinker. That's it. Two, I don't want you to believe a word I say or anything you see on the screen. I want you to stop the video and then go check it out yourself. Three, I do not intend to insult anyone during this video. But I guarantee you I'm going to say something throughout the video that may rub someone the wrong way, so I apologize in advance. Four, drop your bias. If you're still so attached to the left-right paradigm that you can't face someone questioning what you think is the truth, then I request that you stop the video now and go watch something else. And then the last thing is just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask the question, because I have a lot of questions. And I hope by the end of this presentation, I help spur some things in your mind that you may have not been aware of. So this legislation, H.R. 645, is what created what people call FEMA camps. And if you've paid attention to the national media, they've made a concerted effort to make this, one, a taboo subject, and two, a fairy tale. But here, this is the legislative number. This is the name of the legislation, National Emergency Centers Establishment Act. Okay, you can go read this thing. It's black and white. It's paper. And what this did was it, one, created these camps throughout the United States. Two, it separated America into what are called FEMA regions, and there are 10 of them. And one of the most shocking portions of this legislation is that it says, and I quote, they are intended to meet other appropriate needs as determined by the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, that is a very broad statement. It's a very broad statement, especially when you consider the fact that most people in America don't know the history of we Americans interned the Japanese. And it's scary when you have people that walk around and say, well, this could never happen in America. Well, it has happened in America. And now, on black and white paper, it is written into law. So please go check this out. This is the map. These are the 10 FEMA regions. Being from the state of Ohio, I know I'm in FEMA Region 5 with the headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. I know that. So if you don't know what FEMA region you fall under, I would suggest you go check it out. Okay, it's very interesting to see what our government is doing, and the crazy thing is, they're not even hiding it. It's right in your face. But because we don't read, we don't know. This executive order was supposed to accompany H.R. 645 that created the 10 FEMA regions. What this did was create the Council of 10 governors that oversee the FEMA regions. So the big takeaway from this executive order is that, for example, in FEMA Region 5, Chicago, Illinois is the headquarters. The governor, the head governor of that FEMA region, has control over the National Guard troops of the other states in his FEMA region. Now, for any of you who understand the way state government's supposed to work, that's insane. That's insane. Ohio can, or Illinois can tell Indiana or Ohio what to do with their National Guard. That's crazy. Okay? And at the bottom of the page, if you don't believe it, go look up the executive order and read it for yourself. National Defense Authorization Act. Now, of all the things I could say about this legislation, I picked the big three that I thought were just the most insane. And I'll probably say that a lot during this video. Insane. NDA 2012 legalized indefinite detention of American citizens under the suspicion that they are a terrorist. Suspicion. Not fact. Not found guilty by a jury of their peers. Okay? Suspicion. It legalized military rendition. If you don't know what military rendition is, I'll give you a very short explanation as to what it is. This means that in the middle of the night, military personnel can come and pick you up out of your home. No judge, no jury, no habeas corpus, no nothing. And then you are shipped off to what are called black site prisons. The most popular one being the one in Cuba. All right. So this is crazy. This is a law. This is law. Okay. And lastly, the big thing what NDA 2012 did was it enabled active duty and activated military personnel to conduct policing operations on American soil outside of martial law. So if you don't know what policing operations are, go speeding down your road, and when the cop pulls you over, you've just seen what a policing operation is. Okay, and everyone go take some time and look up this Army Times article from 2008. Brigade Homeland. What is Brigade Homeland? I'll tell you. Northcom, who's traditionally never had combat troops subordinate to it, now does. And this just tells the story of the 3rd Infantry's 1st Brigade Combat Team, where all military units that are not deployed will have a homeland mission. Okay, think about that. Brigade Homeland in America. That's fantastic. This is Army Regulation 210-35, also known as the Civilian Inmate Labor Program. This was initially enacted under President Clinton, and it was classified at the time, and there were 12 of these military-ran prisons that held civilian criminals. And the deal was, if these civilian criminals could keep their mouths shut during their stint of imprisonment, their time would be reduced. Okay? So, again, anyone who's familiar with the Constitution will know that you don't have civilian personnel in military-ran prisons. And another part of this is these civilians were given jobs while they're at these prisons. And it went from 12 to 24, and many of these prisons were established at former decommissioned military bases, which again is troubling. FM 3-39.40, which is probably the most shocking field manual of the Army I've ever read. And this covers internment and resettlement operations. When you read this very long field manual, you'll probably stop at certain points where you will think that this is fake. And the reason I say that is because what it says is beyond belief. It's beyond reality. And what it did is it created the framework for the United States Army to conduct these internment operations. And many of these people say, well, we need to know how to do that when we're OCONUS, outside the continental United States. Well, I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but throughout this field manual, it states how to detain personnel and separate them by gender and social security number. So ask yourself a question. How many nations around the world have social security numbers? It doesn't say detainee identification number. It doesn't say citizen number. It doesn't say any of that. It says social security number. Okay? It also creates the framework for re-educating political dissidents, which is something we do not do OCONUS. Me personally, I have deployed for this nation, and I can tell you when I was in Iraq, not one time did I see or go on a mission where we were picking people up to re-educate them because they weren't in agreement with the politics. Okay? So you need to ask yourself, why the heck is the United States Army publishing this manual, which was not intended for a public release, but it was leaked? So here we have it. And we see that our Army is preparing to do this, obviously, in CONUS. It's amazing. Another thing that I found shocking that many people don't know about are these state intelligence fusion centers. And every state of the Union has one, the largest of which is in Colorado. But these are intended to be a place where federal, state, and local governments can come together and share information in the hopes that they can help deter domestic terrorism, which is a good idea, and I'm on board with that idea. But when you read this leaked MIAC report from the state of Missouri, you find that what they deem as a national security threat are political ideals and not necessarily dangerous political ideas. So when you read about these guys and they're talking about people who fly the Gadsden flag, which is the Don't Tread on Me flag, how is that a threat to our national security? How does that mean you're a domestic terrorist? And there are many other things in this report that I want you guys to check out, the source being down here at the bottom of the screen. Check this thing out and read it and tell me if you're on board with that. Why is it that our state fusion centers are creating reports like this? Okay? How many people do you know that are starting to question what our government's doing and are reading up on the Gadsden flag and the history of the Gadsden flag and are associating with the ideals of liberty and freedom? Well, under this report, these people would be deemed potential domestic terrorists. And that is not America. This big question always strikes me, and it's, what is the government preparing for? And when you look at these headlines, you would think that our government foresees some type of combat situation erupting here on American soil. And the reason I say it is, when you just look at the headlines, you have NDA, you have indefinite detention, you have 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition purchased by DHS, many of which are hollow point. So for my friends in the military, you know, the military doesn't buy hollow point rounds. Why? Because it would go against the Geneva Conventions. Okay? Then you have Napolitano of DHS come out and apologize after she said that returning veterans are right-wing extremists and are dangerous, are a threat to our national security. Now, why would she say something like that? And then these fusion centers that are all over America get slammed in the Senate for what they're doing. LA Times comes out and talks about how white males who are pro-Second Amendment are more of a danger to America than international terrorists. And that is scary. And what's even more scary is DHS purchases $2 million worth of what are called no hesitation targets. And on the next screen you'll see exactly what those are, but they're pictures of children, seniors, women, pregnant women, holding weapons in their home. You know, one of the women is in a nursery, holding with her hand on her belly, pointing this weapon. Now, why does DHS need to practice with a target like that? Why is our government unleashing, right here, Zero Hedge reported, up to 30,000 drones over America by 2020? What are these drones supposed to be looking at? I mean, are there that many terrorists in America? Think about that. And then here's the no hesitation targets. Look at this. $2 million worth of these. I can't believe that. It almost leaves me speechless. Look at this child. This teenage girl holding the hand of, looks like a sibling. What now? I know friends. I have friends that are cops. I have friends that are former police officers. And I don't understand why any police officer or former police officer or military, I know I didn't train on targets like this when I was getting ready to go downrange. So what is DHS doing? If they're worried about radical Middle Eastern extremists, these damn sure don't look like radical Middle Eastern extremists, do they? No. They look like your sister or cousin or friend. This looks like the people down the street in their home. This doesn't look like people that are assaulting some building. Okay? So I want to keep this thing short, try to keep it under 15 minutes because I know people have better things to do. But the thing is, I want to say is, wake up, guys. It's time to wake up. Turn off the day.